Hello, everyone. I can see that now we have audience is start coming to these webinars. So I can see that many people are coming from different regions, from the Asia, from the South Asia, and also perhaps from other part of the world. So I would say good morning, good afternoon, and maybe good evening. So colleagues, this is part of the AIT Extensions webinar series, which is we organize regularly, and I believe this is the first one that we organize the webinar, especially on the leadership series, that we want to promote the organization change by transferring the practical knowledge in relation to the leadership. So we are now starting to offering a regular program, whether it's a short courses and also online courses and the webinars in the theme of the leadership in various aspects of the leaderships. So today we are very honored and we are very pleased that we will share with you the topics and also have you have the opportunity to listen to the practical leadership skill from our speaker, from the resource person who have a lot of experience in various fields. So as today webinar setting, we have named this webinar as the leadership at the tips of the spears. And this is the topics today. And we have today the speaker is Dr. Christopher Garnier. He is the Executive Director of AIT Extensions of the Asian Institute of Technologies. He has been having a lot of experience by running schools, by running colleges, and also before that, he also have the military background that he also fly helicopters in the U.S. Navy Corps, where he also can bring the experience from the leadership perspective from the military side and also integrated into the organizational perspective that we perhaps can also benefit from his talk. Before we start the webinar, and before I request Dr. Chris to start his talk, his presentations, I would like to request the audience to, if you have any question, we will put the questions at the end of the webinars. You can put your question in the question box. And when close to the end of the webinar, then I will also we will post these questions and I will raise this question to Dr. Christopher to address these questions. So without further ado, I would like to request Dr. Christopher Garnier to start his talk and his presentation on the leadership at the tip of the spears. Dr. Chris, please.
Hello, I hope everyone out there is doing well. Working for a university as I am now, there is a great deal of theory when it comes to leadership. And there's lots of books and articles written on theory, but I would challenge a lot of the so-called experts on theory to really have a better understanding of their applicability. In other words, are they really leaders? And what does it mean to lead? My leadership background is vast, it's large. And you'll see that when I talk about leading, it's not from a book, it's from my actual life. And I'm able to take that leadership and put it in different aspects of my life. So leading at the tip of the spear. That's me. I have a doctorate in global education from the University of Southern California. Some people call me Dr. G. My students call me Professor G, but you just can call me Chris. And as I said, this is not leadership through theory. This will take you through some exquisite, challenging leadership opportunities and times in my life where I've learned how to lead and how I've taken that leadership and put it into other places, other aspects. And I believe that the title of leading from the tip of the spear is extremely relevant because you have to be in true leadership. You have to be the pointy end of that spear, and the rest of people will follow you. So first and foremost, you'll get this slide at the end. I'm a very accessible person. I want you to contact me. At the top is my AIT email address here in Thailand. The bottom email address is my email address no matter what. I can be in the States, I can be in Europe. It doesn't really matter where I am. You can email me there. I'm on WhatsApp. That's my Thai mobile number. The bottom is my US number, which is also on WhatsApp. Also, find me on LinkedIn, which is probably the best place to coordinate with me. I'm also on Facebook. I have a personal Facebook page as well as a professional Facebook page. And I encourage you to reach out to me. I'm extremely accessible and I love to engage with people. So please find me on one of those platforms and reach out and connect. So we're going to talk about leadership and how I see leadership. I was taught the 70-30 rule. The 70-30 rule is you need 70% of the information to begin the process, to begin whatever it is that you're trying to lead. The problem with so many people who claim to be leaders or that say they're leaders is they're looking for the 100% solution. And I tell you that when I learned in the military, and you'll see this, is that the battlefield changes. So while you're waiting for the 100% solution, the battlefield has already changed. And I use the word battlefield as being former military, but I also use battlefield in business, in school, in your own personal lives. If you utilize the 70-30 rule, where I have 70% of the information, and I'm going to start the mission, I'm going to start the new program, I'm going to start whatever it is that you're leading, know that things are going to change anyway. You don't need the 100% solution. And if you try to get the 100% solution, things are already going to change. And you have to be adaptable. You have to be able to move. I tell people all the time, do not fall in love with your plan. When you fall in love with your plan, it's hard to be flexible. It's hard to change because deep down you feel this is the right plan. I put the time, I put the effort, I put the energy already into it. It's got to go this way. When you're so steadfast to your plan, it's so hard to adjust when things need to adjust. And a perfect example is the COVID situation that transpired. Everyone out there right now, COVID has hit us all. And all of us thought we knew what we were going to do in 2020. And guess what? We're now into 2021, and COVID still hasn't passed us up. And many of us are still stuck in, well, this was my plan. Now what? I use the term semper gumby. Semper gumby means always flexible. And that's the way that I utilize and think about life, and I think about planning. I have to be flexible. I can't stay in love with my plan because things are going to hit me in the face that I'm not expecting. As the great boxer Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And it's true. You go in the ring and you think, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and boom, you get smacked. And all of a sudden, you have to adjust. Yeah. And the more that you're able to adjust that plan, the easier it is for you to lead. As my quote up there says, that leadership requires being out in front, being that tip of the spear. You have to be ahead of the crowd. And that means always, not sometimes, always anticipating the right direction, even when the road keeps changing. I'm going to emphasize this. Do not fall in love with your plan. So these are some of the places that are near and dear to my heart. First and foremost, right in the center is University of Southern California. Now, USC is close to my heart and where I earned my doctorate and one of my masters. But it was a place that brought all these other 4 institutions together and had them kind of make sense. And let me explain what that means. I got my bachelor's from the University of Hawaii, which I'll go into more depth about that. I served in the United States Marine Corps as a helicopter pilot, as Joe, our moderator, said earlier. Right before, I was the dean of ACE International Business School in Kathmandu, Nepal, and nothing but love to my Kathmandu, Nepal folks that are out there right there. And currently, I am the executive director of AIT Extension here in Thailand. And USC is in the center of that because it took all these different experiences and brought them together to make this life that I call leadership all make sense, to finally put me in this position right here as the executive director of AIT Extension. Some of my titles. Now, these aren't some of my titles. These are my titles. I've been president of the student body of the University of Hawaii. I was the captain in the United States Marine Corps. I've been a CEO of a consulting company. I'm currently the managing partner of a company right now, the dean of ACE International Business School, and the executive director of AIT Extension. And why do I want you to see these titles? Because you notice that they're not assistants, or they're not secondary positions. They are at the very tip of the spear. They're the ones that I've decided to take on and say, give me that responsibility. And people have trusted me with this responsibility in these large capacities, these large titles. And, Colin Powell said, and Colin Powell is a general, former general of the United States military. He was a Joint Chief of Staff. He was a Secretary of State of the United States of America. And and we'll talk about him later, but one of his quotes that I love to say, that I love to repeat, is he said, avoid having your ego so close to your position that when your position falls, your ego falls along with it too. So, in other words, you have to be a strong enough leader, or feel strong enough that you can go back and forth within different titles and different roles. But at the end of the day, it's your leadership that is in demand. And what kind of leader you are that is in demand. President, captain, CEO, managing partner, dean, executive director, it doesn't really matter. To me, they're all interchangeable. They all can be the same thing. It's not a matter of my ego being connected to me being the executive director of AIT Extension. It's not my ego being connected to me being the CEO. It more has to do with who I am as a leader, who I am as that tip of the spear. And are you willing to follow me at that tip of the spear? And I've been fortunate enough to have people, institutions, entities say, hey, you know what, Chris? Go ahead and use your leadership style, the way that you manage, the way that you bring people along. We're going to give you this title, but it's not about title. It really comes down to having people buy in and follow me. So I'm going to go into some background things here. I was fortunate enough to go to the University of Hawaii on an American football scholarship. And, you learn a lot playing football, playing American football. It's a brutal game. It's a place where you have to really, in many respects, be, in order to be successful, to be the tip of the spear, to throw your body in front of situations, to say, follow me. But there's also a major strategy that goes along with football, or American football, that a lot of people don't know or don't realize. I'm going to teach you a little bit about American football in my next slide, because I know I'm in an international community, and I know a lot of people don't quite know about American football, but I'm going to teach you a little bit about it so you can understand the strategies behind it and why American football really helped me in many respects, understand what it takes to lead, again, at the tip of the spear. So at the very bottom, on the right-hand side of the screen, this is called the kickoff formation. On the kickoff team is the team on the right. The kickoff return team is the team over here on the left. And you can see the football is placed right after the yellow area, closer to the kickoff team. Now, this is a really violent, they call this the most violent part of the football, of American football, because it happens right after the score. And your responsibility on the kickoff team is to run as fast as you can, avoiding the people on the left in order to stop the people on the left as close as they can to the goal line. Now, the closer that the people on the left return the ball to the other side, their goal is to try to score a touchdown on the other side. The responsibility of the right side is to stop them. The responsibility on the left side is to utilize strategy to stop the people on the right-hand side. As you can see on the top of the screen, the arrows are pointing. Their job is to run down and to avoid and to really make quick decisions in order to stop that ball from returning, to stop them from scoring. And believe it or not, the team on the left has many strategies on how to block the team on the right, on how to eventually get them to a place where they get closer to the goal line on the other side to score a touchdown. And you have to be a little bit off in your mind to think about you're going to run down as fast as you can with pads on and knock this person down as hard as you can to prevent them from scoring. And again, the closer you can get them to their side of the goal line, the more successful you have been on the kickoff team. I'm going to give you a quick example.
And Santa on the Hawaii sideline, all smiles and giggles now with Hawaii up 17-10. We'll see for how long it lasts. Oregon State will get the football. Robert Prescott from his own goal line will cut it up near side. A terrific special teams tackle by Chris Garnier.
Steve, what happens is, for whatever reason, Harris.
So I'm gonna have our team play it one more time. Again, the goal of this is to stop them as close to the goal line as you possibly can. And my job is to run down and do exactly what I did. It takes quick decision making, and it says, follow me along. Let's watch that one more time.
And Santa on the Hawaii sideline, all smiles and giggles now with Hawaii up 17-10. We'll see for how long it lasts. Oregon State will get the football. Robert Prescott from his own goal line will cut it up near side. A terrific special teams tackle by Chris Garnier.
Steve, what happens is, for whatever reason, Harris.
So there, as I told you, playing American football really taught me how to lead at the front, how to have an intrepidness, a fearlessness on saying, follow me. I'm going to go down and make plays. I'm going to do the right thing. And it led to more leadership within the University of Hawaii. After my playing time, I was presented with the opportunity to run for president of the University of Hawaii. Again, this goes into leadership of me not just talking about leadership, but me actually putting leadership into practice. You know, I was asked at the time, because I was never used to, I had never been a part of student government, and the two ladies that I was running against, one on the far right, Pialani Smith, she was the former president of the student body of the University of Hawaii. And Antoinette Lancowan, she was actually the vice president of the Associated Students of the University of Hawaii. And I came in and I said, I'm gonna run. I would love to be president. And I was asked, well, Chris, you've never been in student government before. Why are you running for a president position and not a student senate position? And my answer was, you can't make changes unless you're at the tip of the spear. You can't make changes unless you're at the tip of the spear. So I ran, not knowing if I was going to win or not. I put my answers in that were different from those incumbents of ways things were done before. And I won. I won. And let me tell you, I had no idea what I was doing. All of a sudden, I'm in charge of 38 student senators. I'm in charge of a student stock portfolio of $10 million US. I'm meeting with the governor of the state of Hawaii once a month. And we're discussing and talking about what's best for the 20,000 undergraduate students that I am now responsible for. But let me tell you, I wouldn't even taken on that role or that responsibility had I not known, first and foremost, that leadership is about putting yourself out there. It's about running down the field as hard as you can. It's about avoiding the strategy that's trying to stop you. And it's about being the person that says, follow me, even if you don't know what you're doing all the time. It's a fearlessness. It's an efficacy, a self-efficacy of believe in me because I believe in myself. Now on to the Marine Corps. You know, my time as an American football player at the University of Hawaii and my time as president of the Associate Students of the University of Hawaii led me to the United States Marine Corps. It was right around the time, actually, I joined in 2002, and everyone knows what happened in 2001, which was 9/11. And many people might think, you're crazy. What on earth are you doing? You're going to join your United States military during this time of unrest? And that confidence, that efficacy came in. And I said, yes, I want people to follow me. I want to lead. So I joined the Marine Corps. And these 14 leadership traits were instilled in me. And these aren't from a book. These are things that we were judged by every day as leaders. JJ did tie buckle. JJ did tie buckle. That was the acronym. If you go down the list, from justice to judgment to dependability to integrity to decisiveness to tact and onward and onward. The way that we remembered this was JJ did tie buckle. And a lot of times, people talk about these qualities. A lot of times, leaders say they have these qualities. But as Marines, we were judged by these qualities all the time, every day. These are the qualities that I still judge myself by. These are the qualities when I go in and I look at my staff and I'm asked to lead. This is what I judge them by. One of the largest ones that I see is courage. Courage to make decisions. That's the tip of the spear. It's having courage. All those others go along with it. But courage is not being afraid. There's plenty of times I've been afraid. Plenty of times. What courage is overcoming that fear. Telling yourself, am I good enough for this job? You are. Should I apply for this school? You should. Should I ask her to marry me? You should. It's about courage. Courage, again, is not the absence of fear. Courage is the ability to overcome that fear. So we're going to go into what I call my big girl. My big girl is the CH-53 Echo Super Stallion. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal aircraft, and this is what I was able to fly while serving as a Marine Corps helicopter pilot, particularly, well, in the Middle East. Let me give you some numbers, some background with the big girl, and you understand why I call her the big girl. First and foremost, she cost the United States military $45 million US per helicopter. As a 24-year-old man, I was in charge of a $45 million asset, bigger than any company or school that I've ever been in charge of. When you're 25, 24, 26, and someone gives you the responsibility of an asset that's worth $45 million, your belief in yourself and your efficacy grows immensely. But I wouldn't ever be able to put myself in that cockpit and take on that responsibility had those other steps from playing football to being the president, if they didn't come into place. That efficacy was built. Let me give you some dimensions of her. She's the largest in the U.S. fleet. For my American folks out there, she can lift 36,000 pounds. That's 16,500 kilos. She's 99 feet long from tip to tail. That's 31 meters long. The rotor arc is 79 feet. That's 24 meters of a rotor arc. I could put 55 troops in her. 55. I know you guys are thinking a helicopter. Oh, she's not a normal helicopter. She's the big girl. And her responsibility and her job and my job, as I call her, the flying truck. We would go to different areas around the AO, or the area of operation, and we would drop off mail and food and different supplies for our men and women that were in the field. We would also do some of the most challenging missions, what we call them fallen angel flights. Now, the fallen angel flights are, I know you've seen the coffins when they're of our troops, of our men and women in uniform, when they're in the back of a C-130, and they have these beautiful flags draped across their coffins. My responsibility was to get their bodies out of the desert and eventually get them back to the C-130 so their bodies could be returned. Challenging work, but good work. And though I talked about the $45 million price tag of the helicopter, what was most important was the human capital. You can't put a price tag on human life. People say they lead right now in their business, their corporation, and you know, maybe your toughest decision on someone's life is you have to fire them or hire them. But in the big scheme of things, it's not a life or death decision. Every single day I went out and flew that big girl, I made decisions on people's lives. Every single day. And that puts you in a position where you're asked to take on leadership roles that are away from the military world. You can lead, and you can lead with confidence. So the $45 million, yeah, it's a big price. It's a large asset. But the human life, what I was responsible for the most, was even the greater asset. Just so you can get a perspective of how big she is. This is an A4 Phantom. This is, no kidding, a mission that my squadron did, digging this jet out of the desert. You know, a lot of time it's hard to get a perspective on how large this helicopter is. I hope this gives you a better understanding of what my responsibility was and this massive asset that I had the ability to manage, to lead, and the crew that helped me lead it and manage it. So I want to give you a perspective on what it's like to be in her, to fly her, to operate her. As you can see on each side of the helicopter, well, you can't see, but you can see one 50 cal. Out of the right side, we had a right gunner who had a 50 cal machine gun. On the left side, you had another 50 cal with the left gunner with a 50 cal machine gun. And in the back, you had a tail gunner with a 50 cal machine gun. And right now, I'm getting ready to land on the Haditha Dam in Iraq. Now, there's not much water in Iraq, and I had to get this perspective of the map so you can actually see where the Haditha Dam actually lies within the country of Iraq, because the perspective that you have right now might be a bit deceptive and thinking, wow, there's a lot of water in Iraq. There's not. There's a couple places that are here nor there, but I just want to give you a perspective of what it looked like for my right gunner as we were landing this helicopter. Now, that landing is more intense than you realize. As I told you, the helicopter is 99 feet long, 31 meters long. That landing pad is 120 feet. 120 feet. You don't have much room for mistakes. You got to come in solid. You got to come in strong. And there's a lot of fear, anxiety that comes along with it. But you got to manage it. You got to lead. You got to let the people that are in the helicopter that you're dropping off, you got to let them know, I got this. You can put your life in my hands. I'm going to lead us to success. I'm going to land this helicopter. I'm going to lead at the tip of the spear. So this is a real life fitness report. This is, no kidding, what my commanders wrote about me as a leader when I was flying in my missions. At the top, you can say directed and additional comments. It says it's outstanding job as a junior department head, demonstrated leadership and performance with results attaining the key billets within the squadron. But I want to go down a little bit further on that one on the left. And it says directed comments, section item 3C. It says this is a combat report. While deployed to Al-Assad, Iraq, MRO, which means the Marine reported on, flew a CH-53 Echo helicopter, aircraft commander, in direct combat of our troops on the ground, and engage in hostile fire with the enemy. If you go to the right side, it also on the top says, this is a combat report based on the MROs, the Marine reporting on officers' engagement and combat flight as operational as a CH-53 pilot while deployed to Afghanistan in support of OEF, which is Operation Enduring Freedom. If you go down a little to the last sentence on the bottom, second to last, it says, a skillful pilot who as a new section leader was able to be the go-to guy to land numerous flight missions, including a NATO-led helicopter airborne raid into the highly kinetic area of Lashkar. Captain Garnier is my #3 captain I've ridden on as a reporting senior. Highly recommended for promotion, school, and retention. This is Colonel John Pritt. He wrote on, at this time, over 200 captains. #3, I'll take that. #3 of 200, I'll take that. My time in the service earned me 6 air medals, 6. 2 Iraqi campaign medals, 1 Afghanistan campaign medal, and 1 NATO medal, and other medals, but these are the ones that were the most important to me. So when people talk about leadership, and they make it a theoretical sense, I raise my eyebrow sometimes, because leadership is subjective. Leadership under pressure is even more subjective. So after leaving the military, my time in leadership around the world grew. These are some of the travels that I've had. From, as you can see, Singapore, to my time as the dean at ACE International Business School, to Hong Kong, to India, to Qatar. And my time of leading in the military opened up these greater opportunities for me to lead in different capacities around the world. And for people to trust that, hey, if he could lead in those tough pressure situations at the tip of the spear, he can lead anywhere. So here I am now at AIT Extension in Thailand. I'm currently in charge of a staff of 41 people. 9 different countries are represented. So many different personalities and attitudes, and for many people, it would be an immense challenge. And for me, it's an immense challenge. I just arrived in December. I actually started the job here in Thailand on January 1st. Thinking about flying from California, which where I was, all the way across the world to take on this new leadership role. Man, you got to have some efficacy, some self-efficacy. You have to believe that in other places that you've led, that leadership will materialize to success in other places. And here I am, extremely excited to take on this challenge. And I'm telling you, my staff right now, they're a bit perplexed, taken back a little bit about my leadership style. But as I've told them, my success in leading in highly challenging areas, my ability to manage and lead people when pressure was on me in the most immense, strongest, greatest way, where my greatest assets were not the money of the helicopter, but the people, that they're going to be okay, that they're in good hands. Who we talked about earlier, General Colin Powell, and I utilize his words a great deal. The 13 rules that Colin Powell utilized, the 13 rules that General Colin Powell utilized. And I follow people who lead at the tip of the spear. General Colin Powell was the youngest Joint Chief of Staff. He was the first African-American Chief of Staff, Joint Chief of Staff. When I follow people and I want to take on their leadership style, I do it from people who have proven that they lead. They don't manage. They're not bosses. They're people that say, follow me. There are the last 4 points that I want to talk about, as I said. Number 1, avoid having your ego so close to your position that when your position falls, your ego goes with it. There are plenty of people that want to hold on tightly and say, I'm the director of this, or I'm the vice president of that. If you lose that job, or if you lose that position, who are you? You know who I am? I'm still Chris Garnier. I'm still a person who understands that people will follow me because I'm willing to be that pointing end of the tip of that spear. And they know, yeah, he's going to lead us. I don't need a title for me to lead. Don't take counsel of your fear or naysayers. There are plenty of people out there that are going to tell you you can't do it. They're going to give you reasons why you shouldn't do it, but you should. You should. It's that courage part that I was talking about. It's that ability to say, I know people are telling me that I can't do this or I shouldn't do this. Don't let them deter you. You are strong. You deserve that raise. You deserve that new position. Go get it. Go take a hold of it. Perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. You know, I just had a person who was working a part of my center here at Extension, and he was talking, and everything that came out of his mouth was, this was bad, and this is poor, and this is, and I stopped and said, can I get something else besides doom and gloom? Attitude, optimism is a thing that brings us over the edge. There were plenty of times in my time in the military where I believed, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. The optimism kicked in and said, yes, you can. If I allowed those naysayers or that pessimism to come in, I couldn't do my job efficiently and effectively. And the last point, it can be done. It can be done. I assure you it can. Don't let someone tell you why it can't be done, because it can.
Right.
It can be done. We just got to figure out a way to get it done. So what is leading from the tip of the spear? What is it? It's that picture we've seen all the time, over and over and over again. It's follow me. I told my people all the time, I will never ask you to do something that I will not do myself. If we got to clean toilets to be successful, I'm going to be cleaning the toilets with you. You will follow me because you see my example. I'm not going to sit in the back of my chair and say, do this, do that. Look at my big title. I'm the vice president of this or the president of that. You're going to follow me because I'm doing it along with you. And leading from the tip of the spear is just that. Follow me. Don't do what I tell you to do. Follow me. And we'll do it together. Hey, that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Please reach out to me. As I told you, this is not a theoretical form on leadership. This is me showing you how I've been a leader over my life and how people continue to give me, bless me, grant me with more leadership opportunities. I hope you've learned something. And again, I encourage you, reach out and connect with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chris or Dr. G, for your very nice presentations and for your very valuable, very useful practical experience that you got it from being the chairpersons of the student associations of the University of Hawaii, and also from the American football fields that, you know, are giving a lot of ideas about the leadership on the technical part that the leadership has to involve in there, and also into the U.S. Marine Corps, which is really dealing with the life of the people. And this is really very great experience that we learned from you, that actually the responsibility is even much bigger of the leaders running organizations today that have to be responsible for the 45 million US dollar of the helicopters, at the same time the human capital that he has to look after, and we have learned a lot from that. So I would like to give a kind of a packaging of the things that we learned from Dr. Chris, Dr. G. One is the 70-30% achievement, achievability, success. Actually, Dr. Chris told us that we should not be aiming for 100%, because actually we are looking, it's not because we cannot do the 100%, but the 70-30 giving us a lot of flexibility to be able to adjust ourselves to the plan that we are doing, and we also adjust the environment that we are moving forward. So it is very important that we have to keep in mind that, you know, we can aim high, but also we have to prepare ourselves that we can adjust in the environment, that we can succeed in the businesses. The thing that also very important to me, and also I think to the audience, is the fearlessness. And actually it is also part of the courage that we people can have. It is also have to remember that the courage is not that we don't have fear, but the ability of we people that we are working organization to be able to overcome something that is huge challenge, and that is the ability to lead of the organization, and also make people to believe in you and also trust in you, and be able to get the target right, and also everybody, you know, be able to land the helicopters. The other part that I also would like to keep reminding us to remember is that, and Chris just talking about at the last part of the presentation, is the being a role model of the organizations. That is very important, because Chris said that being the leader, being the head organization, he or she should not sit and just give instructions or direction, but he or she have to also to get the hands dirty, so that, you know, this being the role model, that also the leader is also join us to get the target right, and also we succeed in that business. So these are the things that, you know, Chris, Dr. G has also picked up from the experience that he been in life, and also in the careers that he has been into, so that we can incorporate into running an organizations. So we have a couple of questions from the audience that I would read, so that Dr. G can address these questions. The first question from the audience is, what is your advice to the new generations of being the leadership that during the time of the change and also this current situation? What is the advice to the new generation if he or she wants to, you know, build their leadership skill to themselves?
That's a great question. And it comes down to one of my points earlier. Semper Gumby, always flexible. A good leader is flexible. A good leader doesn't get stuck on, well, this is the path that was set for me. So for this generation, and not just the new generation, I'm going to say everyone. You know, one of the challenging parts of me taking on this role here at Extension is there is a business model that I'm going to say is antiquated. It's old. And there was very much of, this is how business is done. And COVID smacked them in the face, smacked us in the face. And it's forced us to change, to adapt. Now, as I said earlier, and my first quote was, you always have to, as a good leader, you always have to be able to anticipate the road and the changes. It's anticipation. You have to anticipate. Now, no one could have anticipated COVID. I'm not saying that should have been the anticipation. But what I am saying is what I was taught in the military, is there's always a secondary and a tertiary plan. If your plan is simply, this is my plan, and you don't have a second or tertiary plan, I'm going to tell you right now, you're bound to fail. And good leaders, if you're following them, if people are following you, you cannot afford to allow the people behind you, the people that are depending on you, you can't afford to allow to fail on their behalf. You know, my time in the military, if I thought I'm going to fly to the left and all of a sudden I'm engaging in hostile fire and I don't have a plan for that, but my goal was I have to land at that place to the left. It's tragic, the outcome. But everything that was briefed, everything that was discussed, always had a secondary and a minimum of a tertiary plan.
Chris, the next question is, can you share something about the leading in a way that you break the inner tier into your team to adapt to the new changes?
You bring the what again? I'm sorry?
That you break the inner tier into your team to adapt to the new changes. So in other words, how we are going to make the organizations or the team be familiar with the new changes that you are going to bring?
Yeah, that's a challenging question as well. You know, the problem with organizations that first of all, no one likes change. I mean, no one likes change. You know, you come in and, you know, you go to your same coffee shop every morning, and then all of a sudden you realize that the coffee shop is no longer around, or there's new management, and you're looking around and you're saying, what is this? They used to have cafe lattes. Now it's a sandwich shop. It makes you angry. It bothers you. But you have to adapt. You have to move. Now, knowing that people don't like change and trying to get people to change really takes leadership from their top level. You know, if you are so steadfast on this is the way things are and this is how it goes and you're not finding success, that leader needs to go. They have to. I'll tell myself, my staff, if we are not finding success, and I'm telling you we're not going to change, and my staff is coming to me, and I refuse to listen to them, there's something wrong with me as a leader. So you folks out there that are trying to change your leaders, and they will not change, you either have to change their leader and get them to change, or else you're going to bang your head on the wall over and over again. And my suggestion would be to move on. Go find an organization that actually cares about what you have to say, that actually cares about changing for the better and changing for the betterment of the entity or the organization.
Thank you, Chris. So the next questions, I will read these questions. How would you go about creating the cohesion amongst the team with disagree?
Again, that's a leadership responsibility. And you're asking me, how would I go about changing it? I would humble myself. I would say, I don't know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get those people that feel one way together with people that feel the other way, and I'm going to allow them to engage with one another. You know, in my helicopter, I had the title of HAC, and HAC is Helicopter Aircraft Commander. And I had 6 other people in my helicopter: a co-pilot, a left gunner, as we talked about, a right gunner, as we talked about, a tail gunner, a person called the crew chief, that is a glorified flight attendant, but they knew the gauges, they knew the engines of the helicopter, and also a flight surgeon or a doc. Now, at the end of the day, as an aircraft commander, I make the final choice, the final decision. But the mission is not successful unless we all land the helicopter together. I don't land the helicopter and the rest of my crew dies and I say, woo, I made it. So the idea of being a successful leader and having people with different feelings or different thoughts on both sides is having the ability to first humble yourself and say, I don't know all the answers as a leader, but I want to listen. I want to engage. I want to hear what you have to say. At the end, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to make a choice, but not before I really think about and scrutinize what my people who I'm leading care about and what they need about. As I told you before, it's not the money in the organization that makes the organization. It's the human capital.
Thank you, Chris. Next question is, can you please share one of the most unpleasant leadership experience that you have had in the past?
Wow. So, perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. I don't look at negative leadership as negative. I look at it as really a learning opportunity. So I'm not going to really answer that question because then you get into, well, this was bad and that was bad, and that's just not who I am. I can give you a multitude of challenging, I didn't say bad, challenging leadership experiences. A multitude. But that's not who I am. And as Colin Powell said, perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. Now, I might utilize some of those examples with my staff and help them say, let's turn this thing around, because that's not the attitude that we need. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to bash an experience or a time, because I've learned to be a better leader from those challenging experiences.
Yes, so the next question is very practical. I can feel that. So for those who not be able to reach to the leadership of the organization, so they are in their careers. So how would you give the advice to them or encourage them to contribute to the organization or to the team?
Yeah. Great question. The team needs you. The team needs you. I joke about this all the time. I was actually talking with my staff here at Extension on Monday. I got to wear my flight suit. I wore the leather jacket with the sheep fur on top. Man, I was sexy. Woo! It's like Top Gun. Walked out there and thought I was sweet. And my crew, we all wore our flight suits and we looked good. But let me tell you something. That helicopter would not move. It would not be prepared. And then after we landed it, and then all the maintenance crew jumped on and put gas in it, checked the tires, put oil in it, cleared all the sand and dust out. For every hour of flight time in my helicopter, 3 hours of maintenance time. So if your leaders are not going back and exhibiting their gratitude for you, question their leadership. Question their leadership. I used to buy my Marines beer and food and lunch, dinners, all the time. All the time. And constantly trying to find people to promote. All the time. That's what a good leader does. I couldn't do my job without their support.
Do you think leadership could be referred as talent or skills? In your long experience in leadership, get achievement from leadership, you consider it as your talent or your skill?
I think it's a combination of both. And I think we can always enhance our ability to lead. You know, there are people that are born just to be better leaders. But leadership, again, is subjective. You know, I think about the work of Mother Teresa. Was she a leader? Yep. People followed her. I think about the work of Mahatma Gandhi. Was he a leader? Yep. No doubt. Or the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They were leaders. Different leadership styles have different things or different capacities that go along with them. And we all have the capacity for others to follow. You just got to figure out what that leadership style is. And is it talent? I don't think that I wake up in the morning and say, wow, look how talented I am as a leader. What I do wake up every day and say, how can I be better today? What can I do today that can make me better, where people want to follow my example?
Thank you. So perhaps it will be the last question from the audience. How do you lead in the time of the uncertainty? So there is change in the organizations or in their environments.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to that 70-30 rule. I think it goes back to anticipating. But you can't anticipate unless you are willing to gain knowledge of your organization and knowledge of the people around you. Don't think for a second that I just jumped in my helicopter and started to fly missions. There was a great deal of prep work that went into it. If I had a mission at 9 a.m., we brief at 6. I already got the intel from the surrounding areas that I was going around. I had immense knowledge. I was a great student of my craft. And being a great student of my craft helped me to anticipate those bends and twists in the road. So that's my answer. My answer is, you got to anticipate. But if you haven't studied, if you don't know your people, if you don't know the trends, if you don't know your organization, you can't anticipate.
So I think we have learned a lot from Dr.'s talks, and we have get the takeaways in the strategies that we can take for our leadership style and also the leadership quality for our organizations. So I would like to thank all the audience that you be with us for almost 2 hours, and also thanks a lot for very good questions that make everybody to learn more from Dr. G and Dr. Chris. And also would like to thank Dr. G for your time and for your sharing experience. And I believe that this is not only the last time that we are meeting Dr. Chris. We will have more opportunity to learn from him, to share experience with him, and also to get some new thoughts from him on how to run the organization from different perspective, different experience that he have. And perhaps in future, we are also offering something that related, what are the tactics and tools that AIT Extensions can give to the audience and participants, that what we can use for applying into our organizations. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. G. And again, see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.